So we're going to go into complexes here. And this is my favorite method for increasing the deficit because it's the ultimate expression of using force at length and parlaying into a plyometric or ballistic exercise. So the combination of it and really challenging that stretch shortening cycle and challenging our ability to produce force rapidly. This to me is one of those methods that as we look over what's going to make a big net impact and what you can have success with, it's going to be this. Now, I did research on post-activation potentiation, and we really looked at complexes and what parlays better to certain movement profiles, right? So we can look at hang cleans, we can look at hang snatches, we can look at deadlifts, we can look at squats. The thing that really came out, and we see this a lot with force plates, is the folks that spend more time on the plate probably have very poor mechanics in terms of decelerating from a vertical orientation. And the folks that really struggle to parlay that into that plyometric exercise are the one who has those compensatory strategies we're talking about at length, right? So if my squat pattern is what we call a very hingy pattern, and I push my butt back and I drop my chest, if I'm trying to jump up, straight up and down, I'm gonna really struggle to parlay that into a plyometric where I'm trying to go straight up and down. Because that's the ultimate expression of force at length. It's what is my strategy when I get to length? What do I do from a center or mass perspective and a biomechanic perspective to really elicit that response biomechanically when it's fast, right? All things will be revealed when I move fast, heavy, or long. So whatever my mechanics are or aren't, it's going to come out when it gets heavier, when it goes faster, or I have to go a lot longer. So we're thinking bigger picture-wise, is the movement patterns that we're doing that are heavier should mirror and should be similar to how I load and decelerate what I'm going to do faster. Now, there is a point of a certain amount of reps and a certain amount of time and attention and a certain amount of intensity that we need to really potentiate or create that activation, right? The size principle, the Henneman size principle, recruiting higher threshold motor units and muscle fibers, and translating that into a plyometric where I'm not only trying to leverage the stretch on the muscle spindle, but recruitment of that Golgi tendon organ, and not trying to have that inhibit whatever I'm trying to do with the agonist muscle group, right? So I'm thinking two parts. One, I need a certain amount of volume and intensity here. So pretty much a time and attention of under 20 seconds with a certain amount of intensity. Pretty clear research is saying that 85% of your 1 RM max is a pretty good weight. So if you're thinking I'm going to do 2 to 3 reps with a total time under tension of under 20 seconds, working relative strength, I got to start to get my intensity up well above 80%, upwards to 85% to really get that potentiation going into that jump. And then we also want to think about from a logistics standpoint. What is your spacing, right? So a classic method, maybe I do a heels elevated back squat and I pair that up with a hurdle jump. Do I have the space to do that, right? Or am I better served to do something like a heels elevated back squat with a just jump right in front, a counter movement jump right in front, rack the bar, step in front. And that's what I'm going to do here. And I want you to think about that too in your setting. A lot of us are faced with dynamics that we're training athletes in rooms that we really don't have the opportunity to do this very elaborate, really high level setup. We just have to think about what can we actually be successful with, right? So if I have 3 people here, 3 people working there, 3 people working there, I'm going to have to consolidate my space. And I'm going to have to utilize complexes in a different way. Doesn't diminish the value of it if I just go simpler. It just means I'm doing what I can within my setting. And this is a realistic aspect of applying some of these methods. We're all working within different environments, and we have to really associate what I can do with what is best. Not necessarily what is I want to do, it's what I actually can do. So when we're doing a complex, like we're about to do now, I'm going to do 3 reps in my squat with a 5-0 exo tempo, so 5 count down, explosive on the way up. And I'm going to pair that up with 3 counter movement jumps, continuously landing and jumping. And I like that continuous. Instead of set and jump, like we do for our testing for a strength deficit perspective, I want to create that momentum. I want to leverage that eccentric and try to build up that momentum every time I jump and land. Can I absorb and go right back up again? The other big part on this is you'll see people have really bad arm mechanics when they jump. So as you go up and down, make sure you're reinforcing great mechanics. So 5-0 exo tempo of 3 reps on the squat, straight into a continuous counter movement jump for 3 reps. And as I'm going through this, think about my position of my torso, relatively speaking, when I'm squatting and jumping. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, drive up fast. 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, drive up fast. 5, 4, 3, 2, 3. I have 85% load on that bar. Rack, step in front, and then go right into my counter movement jump. Continuous, 3 reps. Load. And we want that transition from the squat into the jump. You're thinking about, where am I going to have the most traffic jams or bottlenecks? If I have some sort of blockage, meaning that they can't get from the actual squat to that jump in a very brief manner, under 15 seconds, you want to rethink about your strategy. You want to think about, what can I actually get done within that complex orientation? Now, the other big part about this too is, okay, they just put a big weight on the bar with a really intense load on there, 85% with a long time with eccentric. Right, so as we start to go through those jumps, you'll start to see, okay, now I'm getting to my end range of really length tension and the ability to produce force, start to get that hip hinge. Okay, critical drop off. I'm no longer getting what I want. I'm gonna start to work sloppy mechanics. I need to either reduce the load, get more rest in between my sets, not from this first exercise to the second exercise, but between total sets, so after your jumps, or stop entirely. It's the same thing we were talking about with top end speed. It's so nuanced, and there's so much technical aspects of it. If we're working crappy inputs, we're gonna get crappy output, and we're gonna see low RSI or more time spent on the plate, right? If I adopt this hingy strategy, meaning that I've now reached fatigue, that now that stretch shortening cycle is taken away, my series elastic opponent isn't doing what it wants to do, that muscle spindle is really now becoming stretched, and that Golgi tendon organ setting inhibition. Okay, now I need to either think about another strategy of stopping, slowing down, or going lighter. The end goal is just try to get good, clean transition from what we want here to there. Doesn't matter how heavy or how much we do, it matters how we do it just as much. So that is complexes.